Let's give a spirit of aloha welcome, Mr. Baron Woznick.
Does anybody here have ADD? Lance does. Anybody here have ADHD? Lance does. I do too. Wow, there's a lot of wires back here. Yeah, ADD people start a lot of businesses. As a business coach, I know. And ADHD people start even more. You know what ADHD? It means you have attention deficit disorder, which is no disorder at all. It's a gift with hyperactivity. So when I rode my bicycle across the United States, that was therapy. Finally, I could relax when I got to the other side. So my wife, Talon, is here, and she's 29 years old today, right? 25 years old today. I wrote a real cool little blog about her today on the on Facebook. So she was born in a small village in Turkey, and at the age of 4 years old, I think, three, she got wanderlust, took off on her own life adventure. No, they moved to Stockholm, Sweden, and then I just really had to dig at her brothers in Fallon, this little town. It's not a little town, by the way, but I wrote in Facebook that she went to a little hamlet in northern Sweden, where recently they got indoor plumbing and the internet. And she lived in a little miner's cabin, just a few hundred yards from the oldest copper mine in Europe, open pit mine, where she would park her, this little hamlet, this little miner's cabin. She would park her Lamborghini Testarossa, poor little hamlet girl, because she was on Swedish TV's car show. So every weekend she drove a different car to her house. It was where they would keep them. And she got really adventurous. That's why I love her, because she stepped out of the box and came to Hawaii. And I wrote in there, she makes a living punching those holes in the sand where the sand crabs live. No, she sells seashells by the seashore, I think. Actually, my wife is a successful realtor. And then my son Joshua back there, he hates this. You can leave, Josh, if you want. I'm so proud of him. And I'm so glad, because in about 3 or 4 months, he'll be making a living as a pilot. And yeah, and then of course Shane, my great videographer son. I have a daughter, Fawn, who lives in Santa Fe. She's an artist. And Shane did all the filming and the editing, and then my daughter helped him storyboard that short trailer you saw. We got to talk about Megan in the back room. She became the best tandem surfer in all of Salt Lake and all of Utah yesterday. And that was really cool that she stepped out of the box. And then I have a son, Jeremiah, who's just graduated from college, formerly in the Navy, and a gnarly big wave rider. Shane, too. Shane only likes to ride big waves, and his favorite thing is a wipeout. He just doesn't like anything but wipeouts. So today, I'm with a real group of adventurous people, and I have a new old friend in Lance, and I interviewed him today, and basically got his whole speech out of him. So I'm going to give his speech for him. So he's going to have nothing to say. I'm going to give his whole talk. It's called Sift and Shift. No, I'm not going to. But no, I love Lance. I feel like I found a real brother in Lance. But you don't need reading glasses yet, do you? So I'm 59. I got to wear my reading glasses. So I want to tell you about a little adventure I had in Pamplona, Spain. Every year, my wife and I lived in Biarritz, France for a while. Have you guys ever been down there in the Basque country of France? It's on the Atlantic side by Spain. So cool there. A lot of people haven't been there. And have you been? Where is it? Really close. Kind of by Pamplona then? By the Pyrenees or?
I'm not exactly sure. I only went there once.
And they talk Spanish there? Okay. So in Biarritz, it's like an hour and a half, maybe 2-hour drive from Pamplona. And our contest there every year, our surfing contest, our tandem surfing contest every year is always during that time of year when they're celebrating they're celebrating Bastille Day. And it so happens at the same time, there's the 2 weeks, I think, of the running of the bulls in Pamplona. So naturally, you have to go run with the bulls, So it's so funny. Hey, let's go run with the bulls. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, well, I'll pick you up at 4:30 in the morning. Good, let's do it. And then no one goes but me, right? And a couple spectators. So we drive over the Pyrenees, by San Sebastian down, Hemingway country, you know. Who here loves Ernest Hemingway? Anybody? Oh, I love him so much. And you know, I got to write my book sitting where he wrote a lot of his books over at the Moana. And so we go over the hills, we go down into Pamplona, and when you arrive there, about 6 in the morning, everybody's still partying. Everybody's drinking and getting their courage up, right, for the running of the bulls. And so I'm like, recon man, I'm taking this seriously. I'm using prudence, believe it or not. I'm using wisdom, right reason and action, and I'm checking out this run, the course that you run. It's all cobblestone, and it's filled with everything you can imagine after a party. You know, urine and throw up and everything. And so before the running of the bulls, they said, we better clean the street out. So they wash it down with fire hoses, which just makes it really slippery, you know. And I'm looking at all this, okay, I can hide in that window. Oh, no, I can hide in the doorway. No, there's no place to hide on the street. So the street starts filling up, and you know there's going to be a gunshot, and the bulls are going to start coming, right? So the crowd starts getting, like they're going to stampede, you know. And everyone's wearing white with a red sash, so it looks like a waiters convention. I don't know if you've ever been to a waiters convention, but it looks like a waiters convention. And I'm looking for a guy wearing Nike shoes. I'm looking for basically Lance, someone who would take it seriously, or like Goose. He just ran the 5K Monday or last week or something like that. I want to look for someone who looks like they've got their training shoes on and is taking it seriously. I'm looking for someone with no sangria spilled on their shirt, you know. And I found him, and he tells me, you know what? When the people start running, don't run. You didn't come here to run with the people. And when you see the bulls, don't run. You didn't come to run away from the bulls. You wait for the bulls and you run with the bulls. And when you hear that gunshot, well, here's what happens. So you're there with all these people are milling about, and then the biggest, meanest cops you've ever seen come into the street. They look bigger than the bulls. And they start putting big old posts in the ground, and they put up fence posts. Guess what? You're either fenced in or fenced out. You're either in the run or you're a spectator. And then you hear a gunshot, and the people start running. There's no bulls. The people are just running. And it's ugly. It's mayhem. On the day that I ran, I'm kind of fortunate to be in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot. It was the bloodiest day in the history of Pamplona. There were 32 ambulances carrying God knows how many people in them, plus private cars taking people to the hospitals or just dumping them off somewhere. But no one died, so that was good. But there's a corner in the running of when you see the video of the running of the bulls, you'll see this little corner where all the cameras are up on stilts. I can't say it right, Bradley. Maybe you know it's how to say it in Spanish, but it's Cuervo del Muerta, I think it is. It's Dead Man's Curve, like the old Jan and Dean song. And I had the advice to take that, because you're running up a hill and then down a hill and then you hit Dead Man's Curve, and it's faded this way. So you have a tendency to run as fast as you can, and then you go low into that curb. And they said, slow down and take that curve high, because that's where everyone gets killed, because the bulls start slipping and sliding. And I saw pictures of someone the day before who got hit by bull after bull after bull in that corner. So anyway, I took that corner slow, and but the bulls come. The bulls there's 6 brown and white ones, which are the ones wearing the bells, and so the big black bulls that they're gonna fight that night to the death, come after them, and it's gnarly. And the gnarliest thing is the stampeding people, because they say once you get knocked down, stay down, because you keep getting up, you're gonna just keep getting killed over and over again. But I was just really fortunate. I've run with the bulls twice and never a mishap. But you run with the bulls, you run all the way along these slippery cobblestone streets, and then into the arena. And I ran into the arena and then into the stands. But the people who stay in the arena, the bulls run through, and they put them in the corral, and then they let some younger bulls out and they play with them. These bulls run around killing people. But what happened that day? Okay, this is it. This is the point I'm trying to make. What happened that day was interesting. Is that when they put that fence posts in, there were those of us who were the adventurers and those who were the spectators. You know what happened to the spectators that day? they were the ones that went to the hospital. You want to know why? Because after the bulls ran by, they thought, all right, the bulls have run by, now I'm going to chase them, and I'll tell everybody I ran with the bulls. So the spectators run into the street. Guess what? There were two really angry bulls that hadn't finished the run. Because there's a gunshot that says when it's over. And I was standing by Ernest Hemingway's bust, a big bust there right at the entryway to the arena, and I said, I haven't heard the second gunshot yet. And then I look back and I see a whole nother like river of people running in black bulls, and they were goring people right and left, throwing people up in the air. So the first lesson I think of an adventure is, do you want to be an adventurer or do you want to be a spectator? And believe me, spectators eventually get the worst of it. My father was a motivational speaker. He wrote a book that, for Lance really, called To Climb the Highest Mountain. And that's what Lance, does. And he used to tell the story of poor Johnny died at age 21, buried at age 81. And before Lance did that mountain climb, he told his kids, don't worry, I'm going to be safe. I'm not going to die. I told Megan today, if he hadn't done that climb, he would have died. Because people without a zest for life and a zest for adventure, they're already dead. So it was those spectators that got gored. It's the people that stand on the sidelines. Guess what? There's not a single person in this room standing on the sidelines. If you're a Xango distributor, you're not standing on the sidelines. And I personally, I love you guys. I've never met someone in Xango that I didn't really just feel like I was part of their tribe. And I love what Xango's done for me as an athlete. So thought you might like to hear a story about running with the bulls. So I want to ask you a question. Since we're all adventurers in this room, what would you say, what is one of the elements that you would say is what makes an adventure an adventure? Henry, you got to start it off. What's something that makes something adventurous? Or maybe we make Goose do it, or Megan do it. What is it? What are the elements of an adventure? What makes an adventure?
Certainty of well-being.
What did you say, Bradley?
The uncertainty of your own well-being.
Risk.
Yes.
Risk. Okay, what's another element of adventure? Excitement. Yeah, like when you married me. What's another element of adventure?
Passion.
What is that?
Passion.
Passion. Like being so bold, nothing's going to stop you.
Faith.
Faith. Wow. Who said that? There you are. Yeah.
I should say that.
Faith? What were you going to say?
Yeah, the same thing that she said.
Yeah, belief that you're going to make it.
Challenge.
The challenge of the adventure. Yeah, so to be willing, one of the things I think makes an adventure is that point of departure. When the uncommon person does a common thing. I mean, the common person does an uncommon thing. A common person does the uncommon thing. Like all your friends that said, what are you doing Xango for, or something maybe, Well, I'm an uncommon person. I'm on an adventure. The minute you sign that distributorship thing, you're on a ride. It reminds me, Gary, the way he got me, twice he gave me bottles of Xango, 8 years apart, never drank them. Then when he gave them to me, I go, oh my gosh. And I forget the old actor, Buster Keaton, I think it was, has this film where he grabs onto a train, and the train's driving by, and he reaches out and he just takes off. It's kind of what it's like being involved in Xango. So the thing is I think what makes for an adventurer is that person that's willing to make that point of departure. And sometimes the adventure happens to us. But the wise people are proactive and they seek adventure, because the adventure of climbing Kilimanjaro or riding my bicycle across the US, that prepares you for the real life adventure. That's not adventure. That prepares you for the real life adventure. So I think anyone that's been bold enough to step out of the box and make the step with Xango has an adventurer's heart. It's so easy just to say, no, I'm going to watch another episode of Biggest Loser or The Bachelor or something, So I admire everyone in this room. Okay, let me ask you another question. What makes a hero? Heart. What do you mean by that? Sacrifice. Courage. What is that, Henry?
Working hard.
Working hard, do it every day.
Every day. Yeah, you know what? That's a beautiful statement because so many parents are heroes. Sometimes they're going to work they don't want to go to. They do it every day. That makes them a hero. They're sacrificing their life for the betterment of their family and their children, you know. So many people now use machoism and force instead of brave, you know, servant leadership, you know. So a hero, what I hear you saying, gotta go to my reading glasses. I'm 59. My wife is only 21, so she doesn't need them. What makes a hero is that point of departure and the willingness not just to step into an adventure, but to step into harm's way for someone else. And I think every Xango distributor is a hero. I mean, I know my mother and father, I can hardly wait. I mean, I've only been taking Xango for maybe 2 months now. I just went and visited my mother and father, and I'm getting them Xango because my parents need to come back home to Hawaii. My mother had an illness, and she's kind of stuck in the mainland in an assisted living place, and I know when she gets these supplements that we'll get her well enough so she can come back. That makes you a hero when you're changing people's lives. And the servant leadership that I see, like in Henry and Goose and Lance, just the few people that I know, people I've met in the Twin Cities, they are people that are showing the way for other people. They're giving their heart and their soul so the people in their downline, you know, can be successful, not only in their pursuit of the financial and the business, but in helping people's lives change. That's what Henry said. The first thing he said was, you're helping people. And how many times a week do you get letters from people, Marilyn and Henry, how Xango helped them? I think it's a big deal. That's what makes a hero. You made that point of departure, and you're sacrificing to help other people. So I was going to tell you this. When I was people like to hear about ocean rescues. Talon knows this story. When I was in New Zealand, have you ever been to New Zealand? Our TV show Clean Break is filming there right now. We got 3 guys over there on a big adventure. But there's a place there. I forget the name of it now, but it's got a built-in jacuzzi right on the ocean's edge. If you dig a little hole at low tide, it's bubbling hot water. And so what happens is people get in there that maybe shouldn't be in there. And there's big, huge signs that say strong currents. So when the tide starts to rise, guess what? People get swept out. And there was no lifeguards there when I was there. So I was there on a date with someone that she was my tandem partner, and we were traveling too. And kind of ended my relationship with her after this incident because I said, let's get away. This is our one day to get away. Let's have a romantic time together. And I spent the day rescuing people. I'd paddle out. Remember a little woman, I could barely put her on the board. I felt I would rip her muscles right out of her arms, right out of their socket. And just made a trip, you know, round trips out there rescuing people that were getting swept out in the current. And she told me, what are you doing? I thought we came here to have a romantic time. Like, she wanted me to just let him die, you know. But that's an adventure. That was an adventure, and that was maybe that day I was a little bit of a hero because I paddled out when no one else would paddle out. Okay, so now my next page. Okay. The challenge that I see, especially with our men, you know, and I see men here in the room, but I see this a lot in men. I was at the radio station in Tampa Bay, Florida about September, and we're talking about a radio segment that I do on there weekly, and we were praying. It's a Christian rock radio station, and the DJ and I are praying, and this kind of, I don't know what you call it, but I think in pictures a lot. That's why I'm a good writer, I guess. And I told him, Jimmy, I got this image in my mind of a big black pickup truck. A man's driving a big black pickup truck, and he's driving through the parking lot, and there's nothing in the back of the truck, and he's spinning his wheel, and he's spitting up dirt and sand. And I said, that's the case I see of a lot of people these days, a lot of men especially. They have all this power, all this ability. They have no mission or purpose. They're just spinning their wheels. They're mistaking motion for progress. There's no purpose, there's no meaning, there's no mission. And then this is what happened. So I think God has a sense of humor. He must if he made me. But 2 days later, I'm in Cocoa Beach, and I'm at the south side of the pier in the gravel parking lot, which, by the way, I was there 10 days ago. The gravel parking lot has now been paved. So don't go there and go, there's no gravel parking lot, because you'll see it's fresh pavement. But this big black pickup truck came driving through the parking lot. And it had some like heavy piece of machinery in the back. And the guy went right by this side of me, went that side. I guess he was checking out the surf, and then he left this way. And guess what? There was no gravel being spit up by those tires because there was some gravitas. There was some meaning, some purpose for that pickup. There was a big machine in the back of that truck. And you know what else happened that was so cool? Bradley will like this. He rolled down the back window, he did the button thing, and out of the back window, a wild bobcat stuck its head out. A wild bobcat. I go, Dennis, what? Oh, yeah, he walks that thing down on the street sometimes. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of people, especially men. Men, we need to get back in touch with that wild part of us. And I think when you find your mission and your purpose in your life and you give yourself to it, get ready for a wild adventure. Get ready for that wild part of your heart to get engaged. So the next thing we need to do, how do you find that purpose? Okay, so we're all motivated. We want to find that purpose in our life. When I rode my bicycle across the United States, and I shouldn't say ride, I always say pedal. So people know, oh, he rode his Harley across the United States. I mean, I pedaled every inch. Lance is a big bicyclist, and and you're mostly mountain, aren't you? You do both, though. See, we're like kindred spirits. When you're on a bicycle, did you know that all the time you're bicycling uphill? You're very rarely going downhill. Did you know that? Because when you ride a bicycle, you go down the hills in about 10 seconds, and oh, there's the mountain again, and you grind your way up that mountain. And on that bicycle ride, I became an expert in roadkill. I know every kind of roadkill you can imagine. I know the smell when it's a mile away. And when you're pedaling up the coastal mountains, that was the hardest part of my bicycle. I was going up those mountains from San Diego. Well, okay, every foot that I walked up the mountains, part of them I couldn't ride. And then I dropped down on the other side, guess what? Into record-breaking heat. It was 8 days of record-breaking heat, so it was so hot that the pavement stuck to my tires. Have you ever ridden a pavement that hot? I bet in Utah it gets like that. So it's like that much of pavement on your tires, and the brakes, are digging into the pavement, so you can't ride during the day. So I did a lot of my riding at night. Like when I paddled my surfboard from Molokai, I left at night. Like when Lance left to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, they had him leave in the middle of the night to do a climb. So a lot of what we do, a lot of that determination is in the darkest part of our life, is when we make those bold steps to change things, But the thing about that bicycle ride, those kind of adventures, and what, I'm talking about proactive things that I've done, adventures that I've chosen to take, but I don't know, like Ken, he's on an uphill climb right now because he just had surgery. And thank God for Xango because he was really healthy before he went in for the surgery. All these adventures that Lance and I talk about, they're nothing. It's not real life. But it prepares you for real life. If you're proactive and you learn how to master your will, which is really hard to do. It's really kind of the whole reason why we're here, is to learn to yield our will, as Lance said, surrender our will, I think, to God. But self-mastery is a really difficult thing. I mean, I can put my glasses on so easy. Watch, I will to put my glasses on, and now they're on. But what if I will not to eat that steak afterwards? My will isn't that strong. God gave me a free will, but my will isn't free to do what I want it to do. But when you pursue this type of adventure, when you make choices like that and you pursue them, you exercise that muscle. And in time, your will is a more powerful thing. And when you choose to make an adventure like Xango, and every day you do, Xango's so easy to do if you just do what your leaders, I'm a business coach, I love the way it's set up. But every day you got to get up. Who said it? Who said it, Henry? Was it you? Staying with it? What was it exactly you said? But every day.
You have to do it every day.
Every day.
Sure.
Every day, whether it's Xango or whether it's brushing your teeth, you do it every day. When Shane was in Kathmandu, he said they don't bathe there hardly at all because they don't have good water. But you should bathe almost every day, I guess, unless you're from France. So the thing about the bicycle ride is that, in choosing to take adventures, is that at some point, anybody, I can see everyone in this room, I know everybody in this room, without exception, could pedal their bicycle across the United States. Given enough time and the right kind of motivation, like knowing there's going to be a steak waiting for you at the end of your ride every day, anyone can ride their bicycle across the United States. But what happens on a bicycle ride like that, or paddling, doing distance type stuff a lot, like Lance is a distance athlete too, is that at some point, it's not about, really early on, it's not about how your physical ability. It becomes a mental ability, a will ability to do the next pedal stroke. Like Lance and I were joking around about how my sensei used to, and I think he had a friend helping him the other day too, he used to help me with my push-ups. You ever have anybody help you with your push-ups? You know how to help someone with push-ups? You sit on their shoulder. It helps them to get stronger. And my sensei's pushing down on my shoulders saying, anybody can do anything one more time. Right? Day by day, one pedal stroke. Lance is really obnoxious. You don't want to ever go climb. You never climb Mount Kilimanjaro with him because he sings 80s music while he's going up the mountain. I count. For some reason in my mind, I start counting 100 more pedal strokes. And I just think one more. 1, 2. I don't even mean to. But I know every stroke, every little decision you make in your life, it's not the big decisions. They almost take care of themselves. But it's those little decisions to just keep going. Keep going. You know, you know what happens is it's the wall is not your breaking point. Like David said, lead me to the rock too high to climb and I'll climb it. That was our motto for my first black belt. Lead me to the rock too high to climb. That wall that you've hit in your business, that's not a wall. That's not a breaking point. That's a breakthrough point. When you get to that point where it's an exercise of will to continue, that's your clean break. That's your breakthrough. That's when you, in the darkest night, the darkest part of the night is when Lance got to the top of Kilimanjaro. So that's a breakthrough point. So what I discovered is in riding my bicycle, it came from physical ability to mental ability of willful determination, and then it became spiritual. You get to the point when you're riding in the middle of the night. I did a lot of riding in the middle of the night because of the heat. We talked a lot about the night today, you and I. Riding in the middle of the night, pedaling in the middle of the night, is when I got in touch with my heart. Women, you don't even have to listen because you really kind of know your hearts. Men have not a clue. They go, honey, I think I love you, or maybe it was the pizza I had. It's giving me indigestion. Is that indigestion or is it love? I don't know. But men, when they face a challenge like this, that even it may be doing something new, getting your pilot's license, or doing something that requires your wits to be about you, that requires you to come to an end of yourself. That's where you find yourself. That's where that deepest calling to deep, where the waterfalls roar. Your deepest virtuous self, your selfless self. When you come into that part of you, that's when you find the desires that God planted there. Those are the desires that are meant for you. Those are the waves that you are meant to ride. When you find that desire, and you already know what your gifts and talents are, you marry those desires to your gifts and talents, that's your mission. That's your purpose. That's what should be pulling you. That's what's on the horizon for you. So Lance and I, we both take that effort to do that proactively, as he calls it, sifting. To go through that process. Every year I choose a new adventure. And in that process, I kind of find my new trajectory, and I get rid of the old bad stuff and rethink things and see a better, more clarity of what my mission is in life. So then once you found your desires and you found your gifts and you know the direction, you know what your mission is, then what you need is you need clarity of direction. You need a compass. You need true north. I was so cool. I was talking to the producer from Soul Surfer. You know that movie about Bethany Hamilton today, and he sent me an email just a couple hours ago, and the name of one of the guys he copied in out of it is True North Productions. You know, it's just so cool. True North. True North. When I paddled my surfboard across the Molokai Channel, everyone in this room knows about that. Maybe Lance and Megan don't know. Everyone else knows. That's a gnarly channel. It's one of the gnarliest places in the world to cross. That day, there was a guy that was paddling his kayak. He didn't mean to cross the channel, but he did. He got swept by the current, and they found him like about 3 or 4 days later somewhere off Kauai. He went hundreds of miles. His current was so strong. He didn't, you know, but for me, the day before I left, I went down to the beach and I set my compass that I had taped to my tandem board. And of course, I wanted to go there, but you have to go upstream in life, right? I had to go that way to get over there. And I set my compass heading. So when I left in the morning, in the dark, right? Seems to be the dark is the time of the ascent. I looked at my compass was pointing right at the full moon. So I just followed that full moon until it set into Cocoa Head Crater. And so what I want to ask you to do is, once you realize what this mission is, and you know, it kind of reveals itself to you over time, as your life goes, your different seasons of your life, then write that down. So you know when things get dark and things get confused. You know, I used to live in California where it gets so foggy, we'd have surf contests, forget it. The judges had no idea what was going on in the water. You know, when things get foggy and murky, that's when you look at your compass. I was hunting deer I used to have a cabin up in the mountains in Montana by the Glacier Park. And I don't know anything about hunting, and I didn't know anything about compasses. So they had me go down in there, and I was the guy walking to make the deer run towards the guys that knew what they were doing. So a few of us were walking along, and there's grizzly in there, you know. And I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and I go, oh, I got my compass here and everything. And I walked, and I walked, and I walked. I go, oh my gosh, it's getting cloudy. Now I don't know where the mountain peaks are. I don't know which way's west, east, north, you know. And I go, I'll just keep walking straight. And then eventually I found someone's trail, and I go, oh good, I'll follow this guy's trail. He must know where he's going. And then I found out it was my trail. I'd made a whole circle and back on my trail. That's a scary feeling. Yeah. Later in the afternoon, the sun's going to set, you're in the snow, and blizzards are coming. So find that direction, right? And my dad used to tell me, I used to see my dad with these yellow pads and a pencil because he said only God writes in pen. And he would write his dreams every morning. He was writing his dreams, clarifying his dreams. Write it down because only God writes in pen, but write it down in pencil. Write down your dreams and make them into goals. You guys all know this. But if you're not doing it, then what good is the knowledge, you know? You know, there's a verse that I love, Habakkuk. Anyone ever heard of that book? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the one that says, write the vision down in words big enough so the one that's reading them can run while he's reading. That's the clarity of vision that you want. And then, sorry about this, you guys. I don't know what it's doing here. So once you've found that direction, then there's only one thing left. My son Jeremiah, in my book, in the first chapter, I talk about Joshua calling me saying, Dad, Jeremiah's going out. I go, what? It's the biggest day I've ever heard of. He's going out with Crazy Todd. He's going to tow in surf. So I get in my car and I just jam faster than I've ever driven to the North Shore. And I get there, he's already gone out. Where is he, Josh? I don't know. I lost him immediately. I'm looking out at Haleiwa Harbor. The buoy, you know, the indicator buoy that's supposed to be always never sinking below the water because it's there to indicate stuff, is below the water level because the waves are so big. I'd never seen anything like it. And they're out there, and Todd takes them out to a place called Outside Alligators. All the guys on jet skis are coming in. It's too big. It's too big. Don't do it. It's too big. Crazy Todd and Jeremiah go out to Alligators. And Todd pulls them into a 35-foot face, which everyone knows is monster huge, about as big as anybody could ever paddle into. Probably can't even paddle into a wave that big. And then he sweeps up by in the jet ski and takes Jeremiah back out. You know, these waves are so big you can't catch them by paddling. You have to be towed in. And he goes, Jeremiah, you like go deep. That's where the book title comes, Deep in the Wave. You like go deep. Jeremiah thought about it for a good minute. Now, we had been training his whole life for this moment. That summer, we had gone out here in Waikiki every couple of days, dive down, grab a boulder, run. And if you can dive down, grab a boulder, and run for 20 yards, if you can dive down 20 feet, grab a boulder, and run for 20 yards, that's hard. It's actually hard because it's like climbing a mountain with no oxygen. If you can paddle a surfboard 20 miles without stopping once, if you can hold your breath as long as it takes for the sunset to hit the ocean until it sinks below it, 2 minutes and 20 seconds, that's my rule, the 20 rule. Then you can go surf Waimea. He was surfing waves bigger than I'd ever seen in my life. He goes, Jeremiah, do you like go deep? And Jeremiah thought about it for a long time, and he made a decision that he was willing to die to ride those waves. When you tow in surf, the first decision you make is that you're willing to die. But you have confidence in your partner that he'll resuscitate you. And it happens quite regularly, where people come up back first, and there's a little hook on their vest, and they pull them up on the ski, the little boogie board, the big boogie board behind, and they resuscitate and they bring him back to life. And he made a decision to drop in. If you ever see the video, when you see him dropping in, he rode the wave for 1.5 miles before he could get out. When the video starts, you can't even see him because he's smaller than a pixel. And then you see him coming into view, and then he just explodes into view. And he rode a wave that was probably 70-foot face. And you know, think about how heavy a bucket of water is. Think about an Olympic-sized pool dumping on your head. Think about hundreds of Olympic-sized pools falling. And you know, he did have some a tough time out there at one point. But the thing that took to ride a big wave, it always takes one thing only: commitment. Commitment. It has to be total commitment. The surfing phrase, go for it. So in your Xango and in your life and the goals that you set, you have to go for it. Xango is a big wave. If you want to ride a big wave, you got to have a big wave. Xango is a big wave. The products that it has are a big wave. If you want to ride a big wave, you got to have a rhino chaser, right? You got to have a big wave gun. The business opportunity in Xango is a big wave gun. And if you want to be successful riding the big wave, you got to have the ability, the agility, you got to have the technique. The Xango technique is the simplest thing I've ever seen. Send somebody a link. You find out they followed up on it. You call them up, drop off a bottle of Xango. They try it. It changes their life. What could be easier? You're saving people's lives, extending their lives, giving them a better quality of life, and you're doing it in a way that they can step in and have an opportunity too. So I applaud all you guys for being such great adventurers. I thank you. Love you, Goose, for making me part of the Xango family. Henry and Marilyn, thanks for being such innovators and pioneers. You know who the pioneers are? People used to tell me this when I started the world tour, when I created the World Tandem Tour. There's going to be a lot of people angry with you, jealous of you. You can always tell the pioneers are the ones with the Indians, with the Indian arrows in their back, right? Just keep on going. You're doing something right. Okay, aloha.